Have you ever noticed how often we say yes to things we don't really want to do? A coworker asks for help with something that isn't your responsibility, and you say yes. A friend invites you to an event you don't feel like attending, but you say yes. Family pressures you to take on tasks that drain you, and still, you say yes. We live in a world where people are afraid of disappointing others, afraid of looking selfish, afraid of being judged. But here's the truth: every time you say yes when you really mean no, you are trading away your time, your energy, and your peace of mind. The Stoics understood this problem 2,000 years ago. They lived in societies full of demands, expectations, and obligations, just as we do today. And yet, they believed that the ability to set boundaries, to say no when necessary, was not just a skill, but a form of wisdom. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." Notice the simplicity. If something does not align with your values, you don't owe anyone a yes. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by the word yes. How many times have you stayed quiet when you wanted to speak up? How often have you agreed to things that weighed on you, simply because you feared conflict? And how many opportunities for your own growth have you missed, because you were too busy pleasing others? The Stoic way is not about being rude or harsh. It's about living in harmony with your own principles and protecting the limited energy you've been given. When Epictetus taught his students, he constantly returned to one idea: you control your own choices, nothing else. You cannot control whether others will approve of you, but you can control whether you live honestly, whether you stand by your values, whether you protect your time and attention. Saying no is a way of claiming that control. It is how you stop living for the crowd and start living for your soul. In this journey, we will explore 10 Stoic lessons on how to say no with confidence, without guilt, and with clarity of purpose. These are not just abstract ideas, they are practical, daily disciplines that can change the way you interact with the world. If you've ever felt drained, overwhelmed, or resentful because you gave too much of yourself away, this is for you. So let's begin. The first lesson is simple but profound: you are the guardian of your own energy. Lesson 1: guard your energy. The Stoics believe that your energy, your attention, your time, your focus, is one of the most precious resources you have. Unlike money, once your energy for the day is gone, you cannot get it back. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. And what is your mind if not the very core of your energy, your ability to think, decide, and act with clarity? When you say yes to everything, you scatter that energy in 1,000 directions. A piece goes to tasks you didn't want to do. A piece goes to people who don't truly value your time. Another piece goes to obligations you accepted out of guilt. By the end of the day, you find yourself drained, resentful, and frustrated. And yet, when the next request comes, you say yes again. Why? Because deep down you're afraid that saying no will make others think less of you. But here is the Stoic truth: your energy does not belong to the crowd. It belongs to you. And if you do not guard it carefully, the world will take it from you without hesitation. Think of your energy like a fortress. A fortress has gates, and not everyone is allowed inside. If the gates are always open, invaders can come and go as they please, taking whatever they want. But if the gates are guarded with discipline, the fortress remains strong, and the people inside remain safe. Your energy is no different. If you allow every request, every demand, every distraction to enter, your fortress will fall. Guarding your energy means closing the gates when necessary, and saying, "No, this does not serve my higher purpose." Ask yourself, how many times have you said yes to something that left you feeling empty? How often have you agreed to tasks that stole your peace instead of adding meaning to your life? How often have you wished, deep inside, that you had simply said no? The Stoics were not selfish, but they were clear: you cannot serve others well if you are exhausted and resentful. By guarding your energy, you are not rejecting people, you are protecting your ability to show up authentically when it truly matters. When you choose your yes carefully, that yes becomes powerful. Here's a practical exercise. Take a notebook and write down all the things you said yes to in the past week. Then, beside each one, write how it made you feel. Did it energize you? Did it align with your values? Or did it drain you? Once you see the pattern, you'll realize that most of your stress doesn't come from big tragedies, but from 1,000 small yes you gave away without thought. Epictetus warned his students, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. What does this mean in the context of saying no? It means that people may not always understand your boundaries. They may think you are being distant, cold, or selfish. But the Stoics remind us, it is better to be misunderstood than to betray yourself. You can endure the temporary discomfort of someone's disapproval, but you cannot endure a life spent in constant exhaustion. Guarding your energy also means being honest with yourself. Sometimes we hide behind yes because we don't want to face the discomfort of confrontation. But courage, as Seneca said, is not the absence of fear, it is acting in spite of it. Every time you say no when it matters, you strengthen your inner courage. You build the unshakable foundation of self-respect. So here is the first rule for a Stoic life. Guard your energy as fiercely as a fortress guards its gates. Every no you say to what drains you is also a yes to your peace, your growth, and your freedom. Lesson 2. Learn the difference between duty and people-pleasing. The Stoics were masters of clarity. They knew that not every obligation is truly your duty. There is a sharp line between what is your responsibility in life and what is merely an attempt to gain approval from others. Crossing that line leads to exhaustion, resentment, and the slow erosion of your character. Marcus Aurelius warned himself daily, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. Duty and people-pleasing may look similar on the surface, but their roots grow in opposite directions. Duty arises from virtue. It is the quiet strength of doing what is right, even when it is difficult. It means taking care of your family, showing up for your commitments, honoring your word, and contributing to the greater good. Duty is rooted in justice, courage, and wisdom. When you fulfill your duty, you grow stronger because you are aligned with your values. People-pleasing, on the other hand, arises from fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of being disliked. Fear of not fitting in. When you say yes, not because it is right, but because you are terrified of hearing someone's disapproval, you abandon your freedom. You become, as Epictetus would say, a slave to opinions. He wrote, if you wish to be free, do not wish for things that depend on others. And isn't approval one of those things that always depends on others? Ask yourself, how many times have you said yes, not because you wanted to, not because it was just, but simply because you didn't want to disappoint? How often have you worn yourself out doing things that brought you no growth, no meaning, only exhaustion, just to keep up appearances? Here's the truth, when you live to please everyone, you betray yourself. You spread your energy thin, and no matter how much you give, it is never enough. Because people-pleasing is a bottomless pit. The moment you satisfy one demand, another appears. The more you give, the more is expected. And still, in the quiet of the night, you feel hollow. Duty is different. Duty may demand sacrifice, but it also gives strength. When you act from duty, you walk away with dignity intact. You know you did what was right, regardless of how others judged it. That sense of integrity is what Marcus Aurelius called living in harmony with nature, meaning living in harmony with your own higher self. Here's a practical exercise. The next time someone asks for your time or effort, pause before answering. Ask yourself 2 questions. Is this aligned with my values? Does this contribute to my duties as a human being, justice, kindness, courage, or wisdom? If the answer is yes, then accept with strength. But if the answer is no, and you realize you are only agreeing because you fear disapproval, then the Stoic choice is to decline. It may feel uncomfortable at first. The people who are used to your endless yes will push back. They may call you selfish, distant, or uncaring. But remember Seneca's words, if you live according to nature, you will never be poor. If you live according to opinion, you will never be rich. Living by opinion, by chasing approval, will always leave you spiritually poor. Living by duty, by choosing what is right, will always enrich you. So the second Stoic lesson for saying no is this: learn the difference between duty and people-pleasing. Do what is right, not what is comfortable. Choose integrity over approval. Now pause and reflect. Are you living your days fulfilling your true duties, or are you trapped in the endless cycle of pleasing others? Imagine what your life would look like if you chose duty over fear. Imagine how much lighter, freer, and stronger you would feel. Lesson 3. Say no to distractions, say yes to focus. One of the greatest thieves of our life is not failure. It is not rejection. It is distraction. The Stoics lived centuries before smartphones, social media, and the 24-hour news cycle, but they already understood the danger of a restless mind that cannot remain still. Marcus Aurelius warned himself in his Meditations, "Do not waste the remainder of your life in thoughts about others, when you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility." In other words, do not scatter your attention on what does not matter. Think about your own day. How many hours slip away in aimless scrolling, in conversations that lead nowhere, in overthinking situations that are beyond your control? How many mornings begin with intention but end with regret because distractions consumed your energy? This is not just a modern problem, it is a human problem. And the Stoics faced it too. For them, the answer was discipline. Discipline not as punishment, but as liberation. Seneca once wrote, "To be everywhere is to be nowhere." And isn't that exactly how distractions work? When your mind is divided into 100 little tasks, you are present nowhere. But when you learn to say no to what is trivial, you create the space to say yes to what matters most. The Stoics believe that focus is sacred. Why? Because life is short. Time is the only resource you cannot replace. Once it is gone, it never returns. Every distraction steals from the limited number of days you have been given. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself constantly, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. When you see time as fragile and fleeting, distractions lose their grip on you. But here's the challenge: distractions often disguise themselves as necessities. An endless stream of emails feels urgent. Checking social media feels harmless. Agreeing to every little favor feels polite. But in reality, these are chains, invisible chains that keep you from your highest work, your deepest relationships, and your inner peace. So how do you break free? Start by practicing what Epictetus called attention to the present moment. When you feel the pull of distraction, pause and ask, does this serve my purpose? Does this strengthen my character? Or is it just noise? That pause is powerful. It reminds you that you are free to choose, that you are not a puppet to every impulse. Here's a practical exercise. Each morning, write down 3 things that truly matter that day. Not 30, just 3. And then, with Stoic discipline, guard your attention like a soldier guards a fortress. When distractions knock at the gate, the pointless arguments, the gossip, the trivial notifications, you have the right to say no. Not rudely, not with anger, but firmly, knowing that your focus is precious. The world will try to scatter you. But the Stoic way is to remain whole. Marcus Aurelius described it perfectly. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Replace distressed with distracted, and the truth remains. The power lies in your hands. So the third Stoic lesson for saying no is this: refuse to be broken by distractions. Say no to what steals your time, so you can say yes to what builds your strength. Now reflect. What would your life look like if you stopped scattering your energy and started focusing on the few things that truly matter? How much deeper would your relationships be? How much progress would you make in your work? How much calmer would your mind feel if you reclaimed your focus today? Lesson 4. Protect your energy by setting boundaries. The Stoics understood something we often forget: energy is finite. Every day, you wake up with a limited amount of mental, emotional, and physical strength. Once it is spent, it cannot be taken back. That is why Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, unless with a view to some mutual benefit." He knew that allowing your attention and emotions to be drained by others is one of the surest ways to weaken yourself. And yet, how often do we give away our energy carelessly? We say yes to obligations we don't truly want. We entertain conversations that leave us empty. We allow negativity to settle into our minds because we lack the courage to set boundaries. This is not kindness. This is self-neglect. To the Stoics, boundaries were not selfish, they were necessary for virtue. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you. Welcome those whom you yourself can improve." This is a call to discernment. Not everyone deserves unlimited access to your time or spirit. If a person constantly drains you, distracts you, or corrupts your peace, you have the right, and the duty, to guard your energy. But setting boundaries is not about anger or coldness. It is about clarity. It is about recognizing what helps you grow and what pulls you backward. Epictetus reminded his students, "Keep company with only those who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best." Imagine applying this principle today. How different would your life look if you surrounded yourself only with those who brought out your best self? Of course, boundaries are tested most by those closest to us: family, colleagues, friends. Saying no in those moments feels like betrayal. But the Stoics remind us that real love is not enabling weakness, but inspiring strength. By protecting your energy, you preserve the ability to show up with genuine presence, rather than resentment. You cannot pour from an empty cup. Here is a practical exercise. Make a list of the activities and people that leave you feeling drained. Then ask yourself, why am I giving them access to my time? Am I afraid of conflict? Am I seeking approval? Or am I simply on autopilot? Once you see the pattern clearly, commit to one small change. It could be declining an unnecessary meeting. It could be spending less time scrolling through negativity online. It could be saying no to a request that does not align with your values. Each boundary you set is a step toward freedom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The tranquility that comes when you stop caring what they say, or think, or do, only what you do." Boundaries are exactly that, the decision to focus on what is within your power, your choices, your responses, your energy, and to let go of the rest. Imagine your life as a fortress. If you leave the gates open at all times, anyone can enter, friend or enemy, wisdom or distraction. But if you guard the gates wisely, choosing carefully who and what you allow inside, then your inner life remains protected. Discipline is your wall. Boundaries are your defense. So the fourth Stoic lesson is this: protect your energy as you would protect your life. Because in many ways, it is your life. When you say no to what drains you, you say yes to peace, to strength, to the possibility of living each day with clarity. Now ask yourself, who in your life strengthens you, and who depletes you? What habits give you energy, and what habits steal it away? And most importantly, do you have the courage to guard your inner fortress today? Lesson 5. Say no to fear, yes to courage. Fear is one of the greatest thieves of human potential. How many dreams have been buried? How many talents have gone unexpressed? How many lives have been half-lived? All because of fear. The Stoics were no strangers to fear. They faced war, exile, disease, betrayal, and death. Yet they learned not to bow to it. Seneca declared, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. In those few words, he revealed one of the greatest truths. Fear rarely comes from the event itself, but from our anxious anticipation of it. Think about it. How often have you spent sleepless nights imagining worst-case scenarios, only to realize later that reality was not nearly as bad as your mind had painted it? The Stoics would say, fear is not the enemy, but your judgment of fear is. The raw sensation of unease is natural. But the story you attach to it, this will ruin me, I cannot survive this, everyone will judge me, that is what chains you. Marcus Aurelius, a man who carried the weight of an empire, wrote in his Meditations, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This is the Stoic antidote to fear, to see it clearly, strip it of illusion, and confront it with courage. Courage, for the Stoics, was not the absence of fear. It was the decision to move forward despite fear. It was action in alignment with virtue, even when the heart trembled. Epictetus told his students, how long will you wait before you demand the best of yourself? Courage means not waiting until the fear is gone, but acting while fear is still whispering in your ear. Here is a practical exercise. The next time you feel fear rising, before a presentation, before a difficult conversation, before making a big decision, stop and write down exactly what you are afraid of. Then ask, what is the worst that can realistically happen? Often, you will discover that even the worst outcome is survivable, and that the cost of inaction is greater than the cost of failure. By naming fear, you shrink its power. Another Stoic tool is premeditatio malorum, or the premeditation of evils. Imagine the obstacles and difficulties you may face, not with despair, but with calm preparation. By rehearsing challenges in your mind, you become less shocked when they arrive. You learn to say, I knew this could come. And I am ready. Fear loses its grip when it no longer surprises you. But courage is not only about facing external challenges. Sometimes, the greatest fear lies within, the fear of rejection, of being judged, of not being enough. This is where Stoicism shines brightest. Because it teaches you that your worth is not determined by applause or criticism, but by the strength of your character. Marcus Aurelius reminds, it never ceases to amaze me, we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own. Ask yourself, how much of your life have you wasted fearing the opinions of others? How many times have you stayed silent, held back, or dimmed your light because you feared judgment? The Stoics would urge you to reclaim that power. To stop measuring yourself by the unstable approval of others and instead act according to reason and virtue. That is true courage. Imagine living a life where fear still visits, but it no longer commands. Where you hear its voice, but you choose your own path. Where instead of asking, what if I fail, you begin to ask, what if I never try? That is the transformation the Stoics invite you into. So the fifth Stoic lesson is this: say no to fear, and yes to courage. Not by denying fear, but by mastering it. By recognizing that fear is nothing more than a shadow, loud, intimidating, but powerless when you shine the light of reason on it. Now reflect, what fears are holding you back today? What opportunities have you avoided because of imagined dangers? And more importantly, what step of courage, even a small one, can you take right now to reclaim your power? Lesson 6. Learn to detach from insults and criticism. One of the heaviest burdens people carry today is the weight of other people's words. A careless insult, a cruel comment online, a dismissive remark from a colleague, and suddenly, the entire day feels ruined. Our thoughts replay the words over and over, each time cutting deeper, as if the insult has power over us. But the Stoics teach a radically different way. Insults only hurt if you hand them the key to your peace of mind. Epictetus was very clear, it is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting. This is one of the most liberating truths of Stoicism. The offense does not live in the words. It lives in the meaning we attach to them. If someone calls you worthless, but you do not believe it, where is the harm? If a stranger online mocks your life, but you know your own path, why should their noise matter more than your reason? Marcus Aurelius faced this daily. As emperor, he was constantly surrounded by critics, flatterers, and enemies. Yet he wrote in his Meditations, "When someone despises you or wrongs you, remember, they act from their own opinion. That opinion is theirs, not yours." In other words, their words reveal more about them than about you. An insult is like a gift. If you refuse to accept it, it still belongs to the one who offered it. But let us be honest, detachment is not always easy. Words can sting. They can trigger old wounds and insecurities. The Stoics never denied this. Instead, they trained themselves to respond with reason instead of reaction. Imagine someone shouts an insult at you in the street. The reflex is to fire back with anger. But the Stoic pause asks, does this insult change who I am? Or is it just sound carried through the air? That pause is where freedom is found. Here's a practice you can adopt. The next time someone insults you, instead of immediately reacting, silently repeat Marcus Aurelius's reminder. The people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. He began each morning expecting human flaws, so when insults came, they did not shock him. They were already part of the map of life. If you expect people to be imperfect, you will not be blindsided when they are. Another Stoic exercise is to imagine the source of the insult. Picture the critic as a human being with struggles, fears, and ignorance. Often, insults are nothing more than projections of their own pain. By seeing the humanity and the weakness behind the words, you can rise above them with compassion instead of resentment. But detachment is not about becoming cold or indifferent to people. It is about protecting your inner fortress. Think of your mind as a strong citadel. Every insult is like an arrow flying toward the walls. If the walls are solid, the arrows bounce off. If the walls are weak, the arrows pierce deep. The Stoics trained themselves to strengthen their walls, with reason, self-respect, and the knowledge that no word can truly define them. Ask yourself, how many times have you replayed an insult in your mind long after the person who said it has forgotten it? Who is truly holding the power in that situation, them or you? The Stoics would say, every time you ruminate on an insult, you injure yourself with a wound the other person cannot even see. So the sixth Stoic lesson is this: detach from insults and criticism. Not by suppressing your feelings, but by recognizing the truth. Words are only air. They cannot touch your character unless you let them. You have the choice to ignore them, to reframe them, or even to use them as fuel for growth. Remember, when you rise above insults, you are not only protecting your peace, you are teaching others by example. You are showing that dignity is stronger than anger, and that the real victory is not in silencing critics, but in mastering yourself. Now reflect, what insult has been haunting you recently? Why do you give it so much space in your mind? And how would your life change if, starting today, you decided that no insult could enter your inner fortress without your permission? Lesson 7. Practice voluntary discomfort to build strength. One of the most counterintuitive yet powerful teachings of the Stoics is this: do not run from discomfort, seek it out. In a world where people chase comfort at every turn, the Stoics stood apart, insisting that true strength is built not in luxury, but in struggle. Seneca wrote, "Set aside a certain number of days, during which ye shall be content with the scantiest and cheapest fare, with coarse and rough dress, saying to yourself all the while, is this the condition I feared?" This practice is known as voluntary discomfort, intentionally exposing yourself to small hardships so that when real challenges arrive, you are not shaken. Think about it, most people are slaves to comfort. A small inconvenience, the Wi-Fi going down, the weather turning cold, a delayed flight, is enough to ruin their entire mood. But a Stoic who has trained themselves through voluntary discomfort sees such inconveniences as nothing more than passing clouds. Marcus Aurelius himself lived in palaces, yet often reminded himself that life could take everything away in an instant. He prepared for hunger, for sickness, for loss. Why? Because he knew that when you prepare for misfortune, you strip it of its sting. The worst pain is not hunger or cold, it is surprise. The unprepared mind crumbles, while the trained mind adapts. So how do you practice this in your own life? Begin small. Sleep without a pillow for a night. Take a cold shower. Walk instead of driving. Skip a meal and sit with the feeling of hunger without rushing to satisfy it. These are not punishments, they are exercises. Each one whispers to your mind, see, this is not as terrible as you imagined. The more you do this, the less grip fear will have over you. Now ask yourself, how much of your daily anxiety comes not from actual pain, but from the fear of possible discomfort? Fear of losing your job, fear of rejection, fear of failure. These fears grow monstrous only because you have never looked them in the eye. Voluntary discomfort is like shining a light into the dark corners of your mind. Suddenly, what looked terrifying is revealed to be survivable. Epictetus reminded his students, when you are delighted with luxury, be sure to reflect that it is not the things themselves that are delightful, but the opinion about them. By practicing discomfort, you break the illusion that comfort is necessary for happiness. You realize that you can still laugh while hungry, still think clearly while cold, still love while facing loss. And once you realize this, life loses much of its power to intimidate you. Consider the soldiers, athletes, explorers, those who willingly endure pain and training so that they may stand strong in real battles. Stoics believe that life itself is a battle, and each day is training. If you train only in luxury, you will collapse the first time hardship strikes. But if you train in discomfort, you will not only endure hardship, you may even welcome it as another opportunity to prove your strength. Let's make it practical. This week, choose one voluntary discomfort to practice. Maybe it's waking earlier than usual and beginning your day in silence. Maybe it's fasting for a day, to remind yourself that hunger will not destroy you. Maybe it's taking that cold shower and breathing through the shock. When you succeed, ask yourself, was this as unbearable as I thought? Or was my fear the real prison? The Stoics did not embrace discomfort because they enjoyed pain, far from it. They did so because discomfort is the teacher that luxury can never be. Luxury lulls you to sleep, discomfort wakes you up. Luxury makes you fragile, discomfort makes you resilient. Luxury whispers lies that you cannot live without it, discomfort reveals the truth that you are stronger than you know. So the seventh Stoic lesson is this: practice voluntary discomfort to build strength. If you embrace small hardships now, the great hardships of life will find you ready. And when others break down at the first sign of difficulty, you will stand calm, steady, and unshakable. Now reflect, what small discomfort could you choose today, not to punish yourself, but to free yourself? And when the next storm of life arrives, will you meet it as a victim of comfort, or as a warrior trained in the school of hardship? Lesson 8. Focus only on what you can control. If there is one teaching of Stoicism that has echoed through centuries louder than any other, it is this: focus only on what you can control, and release what you cannot. At first glance, this seems simple. But when you really stop and look at your own life, how much of your energy, your emotions, even your peace of mind, is spent on things that you have absolutely no power over? Think about it. You worry about what others think of you. You replay conversations in your mind, hoping the other person understood you in the right way. You stress about the weather on your vacation, about politics, about the economy, about whether people will approve or disapprove of your choices. And yet, none of these are fully in your control. Epictetus made it clear, some things are up to us and some things are not. Our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, these are up to us. Our bodies, our possessions, our reputations, our public offices, these are not. Pause here for a moment. Let that sink in. If you truly believe this, if you truly live by this principle, how much lighter would your days feel? Imagine stripping away the burden of carrying the entire world on your shoulders, realizing that the only thing you have to manage is your own mind, your own actions, your own choices. But why is this so hard? Because the mind is addicted to control. We want to shape outcomes, bend reality, manage how others perceive us. Yet the Stoics knew this grasping only leads to suffering. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. Let's test this teaching with examples. You can't control whether your boss praises you or criticizes you, but you can control how diligently you work and how calmly you respond. You can't control if it rains on the day of your wedding, but you can control whether you soak or choose to dance in the rain. You can't control if the market crashes, but you can control whether you panic or adapt. Now, ask yourself, how often do you give away your peace to things beyond your control? How often do you let a stranger's rude comment ruin your entire day? Why do you hand over that power? What if, instead, you could pause and ask, is this within my control? If not, why am I letting it control me? This practice transforms your life. Suddenly, the noise of the world begins to fade. The insults of others lose their sting. The chaos of the outside world becomes background static, while your focus sharpens on the one thing that always belongs to you, your own character. Epictetus trained his students with a simple but life-changing mental exercise. Whenever something disturbs you, immediately separate it into two categories, up to me and not up to me. If it belongs to the second category, let it go. Treat it as you would the weather, not something to curse endlessly, but something to accept and adapt to. But beware, accepting what you cannot control is not the same as apathy. The Stoic does not shrug at injustice or stop striving for excellence. The Stoic acts with all their power where they can, but releases attachment to outcomes they cannot guarantee. You may fight for justice, but you cannot control whether others will join you. You may work tirelessly on your craft, but you cannot control whether the world will recognize your genius. The Stoic measures success not by outcomes, but by effort, by integrity, by living in alignment with virtue. Here is a practical exercise for you. The next time something bothers you, maybe traffic, maybe a harsh email, maybe a delay in your plans, stop and write down the situation. Then, draw two columns. In the first column, write down everything about the situation that is within your control. In the second, write what is not. When you see it on paper, the difference becomes clear. Train yourself to invest your energy only in the first column. Ask yourself, what would happen if you lived this way for 1 week? How much of your mental energy would be freed? How much peace would return to your days? How much stronger, calmer, more unshakable would you become? The Stoics remind us that peace is not found in controlling the world, it is found in mastering yourself. The waves of life will always rise and fall. You cannot command the sea. But you can learn to be the skilled sailor who adjusts the sails, who reads the winds, who keeps a steady hand on the wheel no matter the storm. So the 8th Stoic lesson is this: focus only on what you can control. If you master this, you unlock one of the greatest freedoms a human being can experience. And you will find that what once caused you stress, anger, or despair now passes by like shadows on a wall, leaving your inner peace untouched. Now, let me ask you, will you keep handing your peace over to things you cannot control? Or will you finally reclaim your power by mastering the one thing that always belonged to you, your mind? Lesson 9. Turn obstacles into opportunities. Life will test you. It will put roadblocks in your path, break your plans, and challenge your patience. Most people see obstacles as enemies, as unfair barriers that keep them from happiness. But the Stoics taught something radically different. Obstacles are not the end of the road, they are the road. Marcus Aurelius wrote words that still shake us awake centuries later: the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, what blocks you can also build you. What slows you down can also sharpen you. What seems like misfortune can be the very thing that awakens your true strength. Think about it. Every great story of human resilience is built on this truth. The athlete who breaks a leg and comes back stronger. The entrepreneur whose business fails and rises again, wiser and tougher. The person who loses everything and yet rebuilds with a deeper appreciation for life. Would these people have found such strength without the obstacle? Probably not. It was the challenge itself that shaped them. The Stoics believed that fortune is never fully good or bad, it depends on how you use it. An obstacle is not automatically a curse. It becomes destructive only if you choose to see it that way. But if you ask instead, how can this make me stronger? How can this serve my growth? Then even misfortune becomes your teacher. Let's test this idea in your own life. Think of a setback you recently faced. Maybe you lost an opportunity. Maybe a relationship ended. Maybe someone betrayed you. At first, it felt like the end of the world. But look closer. Did it force you to rethink your priorities? Did it push you to grow in ways you wouldn't have otherwise? Did it reveal strengths you didn't know you had? This is the Stoic lens, not to deny the pain of hardship, but to transform it. Pain is real. Loss is real. But what you do with it, that is where freedom lives. You can complain, collapse, and curse the world. Or you can pause and say, this is hard, yes. But it is also shaping me into someone I could never be without it. Epictetus, who was born a slave, lived this truth. He had no control over his status, his freedom, or his body, which was permanently damaged by his master. Yet he turned his suffering into wisdom, teaching thousands how to free their minds even if their bodies were in chains. His life proves the Stoic claim, the obstacle does not define you. Your response does. Here's a practice. The next time you face an obstacle, ask 3 questions. First, what is within my control right now? Second, how can this situation train me in virtue, in patience, courage, humility, or resilience? Third, when I look back years from now, how will I see this moment as a turning point? Write your answers. This reframing can turn frustration into fuel. Imagine how different your life could be if every difficulty became a training ground. Traffic jams become lessons in patience. Criticism becomes training in humility. Financial loss becomes practice in resilience. Betrayal becomes a test of forgiveness. Suddenly, life stops being a series of unfair punishments and starts being a classroom where every obstacle is a teacher. Ask yourself, how would you live if you truly believed that nothing could ever stop you, that every barrier only made you better? Would you walk with more confidence? Would you act with more courage? Would you stop fearing failure, knowing even failure can be transformed into wisdom? Marcus Aurelius, even as Emperor of Rome, faced wars, plagues, and betrayal. Yet in his writings, he repeatedly reminded himself, whatever happens to you was prepared for you from the beginning of time. The threads of fate wove it into your destiny. He refused to see hardship as meaningless. He chose to see it as part of the path. So the 9th Stoic lesson is this: turn obstacles into opportunities. Do not curse the weight life places on your shoulders, lift it, and let it build your strength. The very thing you think is breaking you may be the thing that makes you unbreakable. Now, let me ask you, the next time life blocks your way, will you stop in anger? Or will you smile and say, this is not the end. This is the way. Lesson 10, live with purpose, not excuses. There is one truth the Stoics repeated again and again: life is short, fragile, and uncertain. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself each morning, you could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. To the Stoics, this was not a call to fear but a call to urgency, to live with purpose, not excuses. Most people waste their days waiting. Waiting for the right time. Waiting until they feel ready. Waiting until conditions are perfect. But the Stoics knew the right time never comes. Conditions are never perfect. Readiness is an illusion. Life will always be messy, unpredictable, and full of reasons to delay. If you keep waiting, you will wait until your time runs out. Epictetus warned his students against this trap. He said, "How long are you going to wait before you demand the best for yourself?" These words sting because they expose a common lie we tell ourselves, that tomorrow will always be available. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Only today belongs to you. Only this moment is yours to claim. So, what does it mean to live with purpose? It means knowing what you stand for. It means aligning your daily actions with your highest values instead of drifting through life. It means asking hard questions. What kind of person do I want to be? What legacy do I want to leave behind? Am I living in a way that, if today were my last day, I would be at peace? Excuses are easy. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough resources. I'll start tomorrow. But excuses are chains. They trap you in the prison of procrastination. The Stoics broke those chains by remembering death, not to be morbid, but to be free. For when you realize time is limited, excuses lose their power. Suddenly, it becomes clear, you don't have time not to act. Living with purpose also means refusing to scatter your energy on trivial distractions. Think of how much time is wasted scrolling endlessly, gossiping, or replaying grudges. Marcus Aurelius scolded himself for this very habit, writing, "Stop wandering about." You aren't likely to read your own notebooks, or the histories of the ancient Greeks and Romans, or the anthologies of their writings, which you set aside for yourself to read when you grow old. Hurry to the end that is yours, and give up idle hopes. In other words, stop wasting your life. Use what is in front of you. Do the work now. Live now. Purpose is not found in fantasies about the future. It is found in action, in the way you show up for your family, in the effort you put into your work, in the kindness you show to strangers, in the discipline you practice when no one is watching. Purpose is lived in small, steady acts that add up to greatness over time. Think about the difference between a day spent drifting and a day lived with intention. In the first, hours vanish, and you look back with regret. Where did the day go? In the second, you act deliberately, even in small things. You take a walk to clear your mind. You read something nourishing. You help someone without expecting anything in return. You go to bed knowing you lived as the best version of yourself. Which day feels more alive? Here's a practice to anchor you in purpose. Each morning, before you look at your phone or dive into tasks, write down one sentence. Today I will live according to my highest values. Then, list 3 concrete actions you will take that day to embody those values. They can be small: a conversation you will approach with patience, a task you will complete with focus, a temptation you will resist with discipline. At night, review what you wrote. Did you live up to your words? If not, don't despair, adjust and try again tomorrow. This simple ritual keeps you aligned with what matters. Ask yourself now, are you living, or are you postponing life? Are you acting, or are you waiting for perfect conditions that will never come? What excuse have you been carrying that you need to drop today? The Stoics were clear: fortune will not wait for you. Opportunities will not wait for you. Death will not wait for you. So why are you waiting? To live with purpose is to live bravely. It is to say, I will not drift. I will not waste this short gift of time. I will act with courage, with clarity, with strength. So the 10th Stoic lesson is this: live with purpose, not excuses. Make every day count. Turn away from delay. Begin now, with what you have, exactly where you are. Because one day, there will be no more chances. And when that day comes, the only thing that will matter is whether you lived fully, or whether you let excuses steal your life. As we come to the end of this journey through the 10 Stoic principles of saying no and protecting your energy, it is important to pause and reflect. What we have explored is not just a collection of philosophical ideas from ancient Rome and Greece. These are living truths, principles that can reshape your daily life if you choose to practice them. Think back to the beginning. We started by asking, why is it so hard to say no? Why do we feel guilty when we protect our boundaries? Why do we drain ourselves trying to please everyone, only to end up empty and resentful? The Stoics understood this struggle centuries ago, and they left us timeless guidance. Saying no is not about selfishness. It is about strength. It is about clarity. It is about protecting the most valuable resource you will ever have, your time, your energy, your peace of mind. Remember Marcus Aurelius' words, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." Each time you say yes to things that do not serve you, you are giving away pieces of your life that you can never recover. Each time you fail to set boundaries, you let others dictate your purpose. But each time you say no with wisdom and courage, you reclaim ownership of your life. The Stoics did not see boundaries as walls of separation, but as gates of strength. They are not built to shut people out, but to protect what is most sacred within. When you guard your inner citadel, your reason, your values, your peace, you can show up more fully, more lovingly, more powerfully for the people and causes that truly matter. So now ask yourself, where in my life am I saying yes out of fear instead of conviction? What habits, obligations, or toxic relationships do I need to release? What is draining me that I must courageously say no to today? And equally, what will I now have the strength to say yes to once I free my energy? What values do I want my daily choices to reflect? How can I use my boundaries not only to protect myself but to serve others better? The beauty of Stoic wisdom is that it does not ask you to change the whole world. It asks you to master yourself. To build an inner fortress so strong that no insult, no demand, no distraction can shake your peace. To live with such clarity that your yes is powerful and your no is unshakable. This is the true gift of saying no. It gives you the freedom to live in alignment with who you are meant to be. But now, as we close, let me leave you with a challenge. Don't just listen. Don't just nod in agreement. Choose one boundary you will enforce today. Choose one thing you will say no to, so that you can say yes to your highest self. Do not wait for tomorrow. The Stoics remind us, tomorrow is not promised. The only time you own is now. And as you walk this path of discipline and strength, remember, you are not alone. There is a community here, a fellowship of people who are also striving to live with wisdom, courage, and inner peace. That is why I invite you to join the conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us, what is the hardest thing for you to say no to? And what will you begin saying no to today? If this message resonated with you, if it gave you clarity or strength, then stay with us. Subscribe to the channel, because every week we bring new lessons from Stoicism and ancient philosophy, not as distant theories, but as living tools for your modern life. Hit the bell so you never miss a chance to sharpen your mind and strengthen your spirit. And above all, carry this with you: your energy is sacred. Your time is precious. Your peace is priceless. Guard them well. Live with courage. Protect your inner citadel. And let your no be as powerful as your yes. Because in the end, the quality of your life will not be measured by how much you gave away to every demand. It will be measured by how faithfully you lived your truth, how courageously you set your course, and how fully you embraced the strength to live as your best self.